Hello and welcome to Learning Fun. The new Flux Kontext dev model landed recently, but some people seem to be a bit confused about the new prompting structure, which is detailed in the built-in workflows. Like, what's going on here? This is the prompt I used there: change the dress to feature an anime art style facial pattern, but maintaining the same photographic style for everything else. And, well, it's just changed her face. She's sort of gone a bit chibi, hasn't she? Thankfully, though, there is a process you can follow to tame this feature, just like I did here, by building a better prompt. This isn't just randomly tweaking words, it's about understanding context, clip, and the T5 XXL working together, thereby allowing you to truly unlock your creative potential. First things first, it's always smart to know your tools. The Flux Kontext model card on Hugging Face is very handy here. From the images given, you can see at a glance that this model is all about doing things in context. That's what gives you amazing artistic control. But it also means you need to do more than just a quick glance at a prompting guide, as that's where the real creative control lies. This needs a deeper understanding of how these powerful generative AIs actually interpret your words, because, let's be honest, making assumptions can lead to frustrating results, such as the one we saw at the beginning there. Let's start with some common misunderstandings and misconceptions. So many of us approach AI prompting like we're typing into a search engine or just using a simple command. However, that can lead to a lot of headaches because it's not truly grasping how these generative AIs process the prompt you're giving it. Take my first prompt here as an example. Change the dress to an anime-style scene featuring cool rodents. Obviously that's awesome and something everybody would want to do. However, the issue here is that I'm assuming the AI knows something, well, that I'm just implying, the desired context. But how can it know when, well, thinking is something that we do, and I've given it a really vague concept? Take my first prompt here as an example. Change the dress to an anime-style scene featuring cool rodents. Now, the issue here, of course, is that I'm assuming it knows my implicit intent, my desired context. But how can it know what something cool looks like, for example? The concept is too vague. It's just gone, oh, cool, that's blue, done. The reality, of course, is that the AI is a brilliant pattern matching system, like a sort of calculator, and despite the name artificial intelligence, the real intelligence part is you, and how you give the equations, prompts in this case, to the calculator or AI in order that you can see the result. If you don't tell it explicitly and in detail, it just won't have any idea what you're trying to do. It's very bad at guessing, so the answer it gives will very much depend on what you're asking it to do. In some ways, it's almost like expecting a guitar to be able to play the music you want, but there's no one there to hear it. Quite tricky. This brings us nicely onto the second assumption, which is one of implicit preservation. However, that may not always be quite what you think. For example, take a look at the words anime-style scene. What is a scene? Well, a scene typically applies to the whole image, doesn't it? It's the scenery, the whole scenery. The assumption in this prompt, therefore, is that the anime style will apply only to the dress because I said change the dress. However, as you can see, that assumption has become manifest. The whole image is anime and the rodents are all over the place. The trick here then is to use explicit instructions for the calculator. You could, for example, define both what you want and what you don't want in a single prompt. Yes, we don't have a negative prompt now, but that doesn't mean we can't use negatives in the positive prompt. Okay, so a slightly longer prompt this time. Change only the dress to an anime-style scene featuring cool rodents, keeping everything else the same. Now, as you can see, that has changed the image. The rodents are now slightly better contained to the dress, although that anime-style scene has still impacted the entire scene. You might have noticed this before with other models, but some styles or some words, some concepts seem to have a sort of greater gravitational pull in the AI's latent space. You could think of it a little bit like a logical black hole, and if you get too close to one of those without explicit, strong containment directives, then those concepts, such as anime style, will spread everywhere. Now, in this example, we've removed many assumptions and we're being more logically explicit about what it should and shouldn't do. So this time we've got transform her elegant flowing dress into a luxury silk texture with a futuristic anime-style ethereal village scene on it that features a mixed assortment of various rodent characters with various outfits on that cover the entire dress surface. But this transformation and its associated styles and rodents must be strictly confined to the dress surface only. Maintain the original face, facial expression, skin tones, lighting, overall photographic quality, background, form and structure. Ensure no style bleed. So as you can see, with a very explicit set of containment rules about what should be precisely where, then, well, it does kind of follow your prompt. And of course, you will notice there are some changes here. If we're removing assumptions and being logically explicit about what it should and shouldn't do, then if we zoom in, why is her face and jewelry actually a little bit different to the original? There you see she's got beads and this kind of crown and a very slightly different face. Well, the way I think of it is it basically boils down to the generative process involved during the reconstruction. So even in areas meant for preservation, there is a subtle reconstruction tax, a certain fluidity that can introduce small changes, and it's especially noticeable in high nuance areas such as faces, jewelry, and of course fingers. In this example, you can see the face has been preserved a lot better, and that's sort of because there's more of it to start with. A bit like a planet versus a tiny rock. It's been able to keep the things we want to keep and change the things we want to change. And even though it does look very good, those teeny tiny details, such as her long fingernails, can be a bit off. So there you can see we've got a fingernail, little tiny pink nail. We go over, have a look at the same thing in there, and it's close. It is very, very close, but it's just these smaller details that can go off. Personally, I don't think that is something you can fix with prompting, but certainly something to be aware of. So, if you are having a headache with context prompting, then I've broken prompting down into a few essential tools, or what I call our prompting toolbox. While a vision model would help you to get started, it does help to understand the process, as there are bits you'll need to use in order to tell the AI exactly what you want it to do. First, let's talk about breaking down concepts. Look at your starting image and think about the various prompts that could emerge from it. For example, here we've got the woman, we've got the white dress, we've got the wall, we've got the thing in the background. Oh, there's another wall in the background. So you could sort of say the wall meaning all walls, or the wall meaning the one in the background. The dress itself also has two areas, so you could say the whole dress, or the top of the dress and the bottom of the dress. So, as you can see, each distinct part of the image is a concept that you can imagine and therefore control. Next, we have concept relations. This is where you tell the AI exactly how all these pieces stick together, or sometimes how they don't stick together. If you can clearly state how one concept relates to another concept, that will help. For example, is your change on something? Is it behind something? Is it contained within another element, like those anime faces being on the dress, or is it around it? So that's how you make sure everything is in the right place and doesn't spill over. Then there is the conceptual style or image theme. This is where you add the flavor and the feeling beyond just what you want, or how you think it should look. These are the styles, the moods, the lighting, the perspective. How do you want it? Do you want it super dramatic, or is it a wild juxtaposition of ethereal anime? So be very descriptive about the overall aesthetic that you're aiming for in just a few words. And finally, there are some quality or fidelity directives. This is where you use strong words to demand how the AI should render the image's overall look and feel, and how closely it should stick to the original image's properties. Simple tags like I used here in the photographic quality helps maintain the photo for that and yet still have the anime rodents. You've also got two kind of processors that you're using for your prompt as well. One part, Clip, that's very good at broad artistic styles and visual cues, like a sort of art critic that understands masterful strokes or photographic quality. Another part, T5XXL, is a master linguist, brilliant at understanding complex sentences, nuanced relationships, and explicit instructions for what is happening in the scene. These processors work together, so when you use clear descriptive terms for quality and fidelity, both parts of the model contribute to guiding the generation towards your desired aesthetic and precision. In the end, it's about prompting the right parts of the combined model in a language it can process for each aspect of your vision. Once you get these tools down, you can master explicit control. This is the secret sauce to fix that implicit instructions problem we had at the beginning. So be very specific about your target, what it is exactly you want it to become, its new look, its new style, its new form. Just don't leave the AI guessing. Also include what not to change, your negative prompt in the positive prompt. This is vital because it tells the AI explicitly what should remain untouched. Slap those strong quality and fidelity directives in there as well, so the background must remain exactly as in the original, and it will try to do its best, at least, to remain within the photographic realm. Then you also have the containment directives. This directly tackles the dreaded style bleed problem, the AI trying to make your whole image match one style. So instead, you tell the AI precisely where that new style starts, and more importantly, where it stops. Use phrases like anime face is only on the clouds, or only on the dress, or strictly confined to the dress, things like that. Also remember, prompting usually isn't a one and done deal. You will have to try a little bit before you understand what works and what doesn't, but at least now you've got a toolbox to work with. If your result isn't perfect, then pause. Don't just hit generate again. Figure out why the AI might have gone off script. Were you not specific enough? Did you forget to preserve something? Was it that pesky style bleed thing going on again? If you make small, targeted tweaks to your prompt based on what you see, then each output is a clue, helping you perfect your prompt understanding. However, you do also have some alternative prompting options. Now, rather than containing things, you can also redefine them. And we've got this thing up here as well, a Flux Guidance node. That's set to 2.5 by default, and the higher the value, the more it will try to follow your prompt, but at the expense of creativity. And as you can see in this example here, it can also lead to oversaturation. This also brings us to a slightly different prompting style where you can weave the containment in through redefinition. Here you can see I'm simply saying what each of them is to become. The woman's hair should change, but the dog is her loyal companion, and even though the foliage changes, her hair is bound to it, as she is rooted in the ground of all being, and then we just add an appropriately surreal style. The problem in this case then isn't our prompt, but the Flux Guidance node, because it's set too high by default. If you're doing redefinition prompting, then I would suggest setting the Flux Guidance to 1. This time, with the lower guidance, I think you can see it actually follows the spirit of the prompt rather than the rigid order of those higher Flux Guidance values. As you can see, the dog, though not completely unchanged, does retain its loyal form, with the rest of the image becoming a beautiful, surreal scene where her hair is much more like how I imagined it, wildly organic. As you saw then, prompting isn't all about one thing. You don't have to have that ordered, rigid structure. You can also have flowing, natural prompts as well, which are perhaps a little bit more like poetry.
Ooh, nerdy rodent. He really makes my day. Showing us AI in a really British way.